I'm Brian Lloyd. I'm the founder and CEO of Painted Porch. And my background, when I was coming out of school was investment banking, private equity, and then ultimately worked at a hedge fund in New York, where I really dove into investments for the first time. At the same time, I was in the world that's sort of like fast moving investment, mostly stocks, mostly in media, telecom, and internet companies. I was fascinated and have been for a long time with the work of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and really getting into how things work and how you can reliably make good investments that make sense over the long run. So I just dove into that as a young person in finance and have loved the journey all the way. So I really nerd out about the discussions we have at the investment committee and how we can get to the bottom of like what we can reliably invest in with confidence, particularly in the long term for our clients and for ourselves.
Justin Valandrin, financial advisor here at Porch. In terms of me being nerdy, I really love getting into the weeds, exploring, how things are made, like ultimately how is that sausage made, not just that surface level answer. So really exploring all of the ins and outs, functionalities, um, and that sort of thing. So my background really is investment analysis and financial planning back in college. So really exploring, how do stocks and bonds work? How do the markets function? And then really got interested in the personal planning side of things of, what makes people tick and how do markets and people interact with one another. So that part has been fascinating exploring, all the psychological aspects and how they all coincide with one another. So it's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Newell. I'm an advisor at Painted Porch in Santa Barbara. And I could not get away from finance. My parents are both investment lawyers. And so for a very young age, I feel like I knew too much, I would say, about the industry. I did a presentation, I think it was third grade, on what the SEC was. So it was just something that just was inherent. But I really became nerdy about how you can start early, and little things when it comes to investing can make a huge difference. And so I loved kind of digging into that. I went to school for finance and business management, and then worked in asset management at what I would say, kind of smart beta type investment firm that also just loved to get into academia and learning about, small cap and value and all these factors that could potentially outperform the market over time or have less of a volatility when the market went down. And that really was just super interesting to me. And so digging into that and also just educating people on that piece, and so tying those things together. And so moving into wealth management and being an advisor, you can kind of tie all those things together. You can talk about the investments in detail if they want it, but you also can just walk through their goals and tie those investments as tools to make sure that they end up getting those goals. And so for me, it's about combining those together and making sure that our clients, reach those goals is what makes me super excited and wanting to nerd out and dig into all of that.
Tim Linval. I'm an advisor at Painted Porch, and I've had the opportunity to be involved in finance my whole career. And I'm one of those that always knew that that's what I wanted to do. For me, it started out watching a show called Family Ties. And for those of you who remember, Michael J. Fox was a star in that show. He was very young at the time and one of the kids in the family. And he wore a suit and had a briefcase and carried the Wall Street Journal at a very young age. And that started to inspire me. I thought that was very interesting, and knew that I wanted to do something. I didn't know what it was, but knew something with finance and markets and investments. And so uh, from there, was able to work in institutional finance, different areas. Always interested in where things start, the fundamentals. I've always been a fundamental analyst, whether it's talking about individual companies when I was investing in individual companies, or in the markets, just what's driving it, and studying that to really be able to explain what's truly behind a move in a stock price or why interest rates go up or down. It's always interested me. And with finance, there's so much involved where when companies need money, for example, to grow, they have agreements, and those agreements have legal documents, and wanting to dig into those and understand what the give and take is for companies deciding whether to raise money or not. Same thing with the economy, just understand what are the drivers, whether it's regulatory or market driven, and just watching those things. It's always been an interest to me.